Hello everybody and welcome to our video. Boy folks, this is going to be a tough one for me. Simply because there's going to be some mistakes that are made in this particular video. Like back in the old days, I would leave, this would be something that I would not have put out. But, everybody, one of the biggest things about the videos we've been doing here recently is, like I said, we got a new guy named Rich that's come down and has just been doing an awesome job of filming everything. And I mean, we film it as is, and people have been responding so much to seeing, when I drop the tongs. One guy told me it makes him feel better to know that I drop tongs every now and then and make mistakes, and so that's why I've been leaving a lot of this stuff in. And I don't mind, showing the aggravations, but there's a huge error that's going to be made in this video, and so you forgive me, I'm a little uncomfortable showing this much of my backside. So what we're going to be making today, guys, again, comes out of the Sorber Collection book. This was a simple trivet that had 3 forge welds. And what we're doing right now is we have 3 rods that are 3/8 inch square, and we are twisting them up. Now, the real trick about this is we have 3 forge welds that are almost in a bit of a star pattern. And this is why a coal forge for doing this type of hardware is 100% superior to a gas forge. Now, normally I would cheat a little bit and I would run over to the MIG welder to start this forge weld because I need these pieces to be together. And this is where, if you have a MIG welder, one spot of MIG weld and you are good to go. And of course, you didn't have that back in the day, so I wanted to have the opportunity to show you guys how you can wire this stuff up. It's a pain in the hind end. It works though. So this is a clothesline wire. It's just a spool of very soft ductile iron wire. Comes out of your local big box store, Lowe's or Home Depot. And what I'm doing is I am simply putting a couple of wraps on there, using the vice grips to tighten this bad boy up and to keep those 2 pieces together. The wires are consumable, so it's going to break, it's going to melt. All it needs to do is just keep your pieces together until you've got them tacked in. But it's a pain in the butt. So there we go. So we make sure they're a little close together, make sure they're flat and even, prep for the weld, and into the fire we go. Come on, Trent, we're on a time schedule. Any day now, Hoss. A little bit of shaky shake with the borax. And we'll be getting our first weld. Now, just like with any of this stuff, that first weld is usually just tapped together. It's really used to seat everything. And then you go back for a second weld that really fuses everything together. Again, reflux it. And out we go for our next weld. Now, once it's welded, I will actually taper this a little bit. I will pull this out into a nice, smooth piece because that, of course, is going to be the first leg. And again, that's 2 pieces of 3/8, so that ends up being a 3/4 inch piece, and so it's got a good bit of beef there. So there's plenty to bring down and taper. Now, let me go ahead and prep you for the error in all this, because the error is actually going to be the fact that with this particular fire, I have an electric blower, and I have a foot pedal, a foot switch that turns it off and on. Now, I am used to working a gas forge, and even I get distracted sometimes. I know it's hard to believe. But what's going to end up happening is I'm going to set this bad boy up to weld in the next piece. You can see me spreading it here. And then I'll take my third piece and bend it accordingly. I'll put a couple bends on there, and then it'll be ready to be fit in. And I believe here I'm going to cheat. Like I said, I showed you the wire before. I'm like, I'm not even going to fight this thing with wire on this next one. We're just going to hit it with a little bit of MIG weld and go from there, which is what I believe that I did. Yep, a little bit of MIG weld, super easy. And the thing is that, you know, most people don't even know what a forge weld is. So if you put your little tack weld in the right place, it will blend in awesomely, and even an experienced smith would have a very difficult time seeing where you tacked it. So watch your eyes. And zit. Wasn't quite lining up, so I had to do a little bit of bending right here. Nothing ever fits perfectly, guys. Unless you've got dies and jigs set up, it never fits perfectly. You're going to have to bubble gum it. That's just the nature of this work that we're doing. So back to the error. So what's going to end up happening is I'm going to end up leaving one of these pieces in the fire for too long. I'm going to burn it. I can't remember if it's this one or if it's the second one. Got good heat there. This is just getting everything together, just seating it. That's looking pretty good. It may have been on the third one. I just know it was embarrassing, whichever one it was. So the weld's been made. I'm going to pull this one out. I reckon it was on the third one, so I have to sit here in anticipation of just how bad I screwed this up. And what happened, and you guys will understand this if you're using a coal forge, I popped it in there, I turned the blower on, and there was something that momentarily distracted me for maybe 10 to 15 seconds, and I pulled out a sparkler. Nope, that one's good. Beautiful. It's going to be the third one. It's going to be the climax of screw up. Now, I think one of the things that when this thing failed, I was like, well, you know, do I start over? Which would normally be what happened. Now, most of my videos, what would happen is we'd scrap this and I would start over. Because the guys, again, remember that we literally pointed to this in a book and I had to figure out how to make it. I've never done one of these before like this, so this is like my first attempt. See, that doesn't look too terrible bad. Maybe. I don't know. I see a little divot right there. All right, here comes the next heat. I bet it's this. And that looks a little warm. Yeah, that's going to be it. So what's happened is it's gotten so hot that it's granulated. And I'm going to be tapping on this thing, and it's going to have a break in it, and it's going to been so hot that it's going to break loose. It's going to happen. This is killing me. There it is, right there. Okay, now, that's the moment where I poop my britches, because I'm like going, Jesus Christ. So now do we restart this whole thing, or do I like power through it? So I decided to power through it. I took another weld, okay, another welding heat, and kind of continued to mush it, because I got it to re-stick, but it's still weak. Now, normally, anything in the shop like this, what I would do is I'd actually just start from scratch, and that's what I would advocate. But a lot of the times you just couldn't do that. And there's a couple ways to repair this, but at this point I'm like, man, this is going to be like a god-awful video. But the thing is that even if you have a failure like that, even if you have a little burn on it, I wanted to show you that you can put this stuff back together. If you think that one of the great things about metal is it's Play-Doh, and if you can do it to Play-Doh, you can do it to the metal. And just because you have a failure somewhere does not mean it's completely done for. So now, again, I'm going to baby this joint because, again, there's probably got some weaknesses in there. But this is a trivet. This is not an axe. This is not something that's going to be taking a lot of impact. This is going to be in somebody's kitchen and just to set a pot on. So, you know, we're going to be able to get away with this. I'm going to end up heating each side. We'll make sure I've got it pulled out. I'm going to turn up a little foot here. Little tippy tap. And then we go over to the vise. Now, you want to talk about not lining anything up. Man, this is, again, I didn't put a square on this. This is about as rough as it comes. So I'll bend the legs down. There's 2 sides, and we need to do 1 more. But, you know, again, when I see original hardware, you know, this stuff exists, and I always figured that it was like battle damage. If something wasn't straight on one of these pieces, then at some point in its life it got bent. And I don't know if that's the case anymore. Again, depending on the skill level of the smith, depending on how much of a hurry they were in, there's so many things that it could have been. And at the end of the day, did this thing function? Did it do the job it needed to do? You know, if we're out on the trail, you know, going across country on wagons, do I care that it's not perfectly square? And the answer is no. I just need it to hold my pot. So, now, you know, it's strange because there's always 2 sides of this. You know, because neatness counts, but, you know, hey. So even though we had a complete failure on a forge weld, I managed to salvage it. We're going to cool it down, hit it with a little bit of coating, and let's see if this thing works. Wunderbar, right out of the pages of the Sorber Collection. Folks, like I said, this has been painful for me because it was such a mess up, but I hope you've enjoyed it. Learn from my mistakes. Please like and subscribe. It helps the channel, and you guys be good.